What's up, guys? Real quick, I'm going to talk about some YouTube stuff. Specifically, I'm going to talk about kind of the Angry Joe situation that's going on, but I also want to go a little deeper and explain why he's taking a bit of a step back from the angry reviews right now, because there is more to him just wanting to get away from it for a break. I think there is a legitimate business reason for it, and we're going to talk about that here. I know I usually talk about video games and other stuff. However, I do like Angry Joe's reviews, and I kind of wanted to touch on it there, and I do talk about YouTube stuff sometimes, so if you're not a big fan of watching a lot of the YouTube, I guess, discussions and stuff, you can move on from the video. Just know obviously I do video game stuff every morning, so you can check me out there. So this big thing with Angry Joe that's kind of taken YouTube by storm, and it's kind of opened up a lot of discussions around it. Max actually brought it to my attention and brought it up on Spawncast, and we had a quick discussion about it there. But I want to dive a little further into it and talk about some of the business aspects in the backgrounds that a lot of people don't like to talk about. I figure we could talk about that a little bit, and I can give you guys an idea as to why maybe he's starting to look at his angry reviews at more of a costly type of video than some of the newer stuff he's doing now. So I think a lot of this really goes back to this update that YouTube did a while ago. Do you remember, man, this was this like a year ago or so? When YouTube did an update that kind of affected the backlog of a lot of people. Their videos that were kind of backlog. A lot of Let's Players really complained, if you remember this, where all of a sudden their views kind of just tanked. And that was because YouTube kind of got away from the backlog, the older videos. And at this time, YouTube is looking for consistent content, constant updates from pretty much anyone on the platform that is trying to make it as a content creator, someone who provides entertainment or information for the viewers. And inadvertently, this really affected a lot of the people who spend time, a lot of production with their videos. So they'll spend like Angry Joe said, a lot of times they'll spend hundreds of hours working on an angry review, whether it's going through things like obviously playing the game, forming opinions, scripting, shooting, editing, costuming, all this stuff that goes into it. He, in his words, can spend upwards to 100 to 200 hours working on one of the larger half-hour episodes. And you know what? I believe it. So as far as I can tell, the last review that Angry Joe did was Friday the 13th. And at this time, it's garnered right around 1.3 million views. And a lot of people look at that and say, wow, that's a lot of views. That's probably a good chunk of money. Well, it's not a bad amount of money, I'll say that. I can look at his video, extrapolate my own, and tell you what he made on that is roughly, because it's a longer video at 27 minutes, he probably made roughly $2,000 to $3,000 based on his current RPM on that video. And again, some people may say that's a lot of money, but consider the amount of time that went into that. I understand why some people think that that's still a good amount of money for what he did there, but if you really take the amount of hours where maybe that one, we'll say on the one side was 100 hours, that's still not very much per hour you're making. And then you also have to take into account taxes because, well, YouTube doesn't take out taxes. You work as an independent contractor in the eyes of the government, so you then have to pay out your taxes at the end of the year. So cut that off the amount he made, any costumes that he purchased, any people that he paid to help edit, and you're left with a very small amount of money for something you spent a lot of time making. And I have to imagine that's extremely deflating on his end, considering some of his Let's Plays, or just his reactions where he sits in front of a camera and talks to you and can edit that in like an hour or so, not even, gets 500,000 views sometimes. This Spider-Man one where he did a quick review where he talked in front of the camera for 15 minutes, it got him 500,000 views. That's gotta be awesome in his mind to think, wow, I can just do this, I'll get 500,000 views, and I don't have to focus heavily on my angry reviews. Now, there is still a place for his angry reviews. I will say that because while it might not be the biggest moneymaker, it's certainly the biggest draw to his channel. So whenever he put it out an angry review, right, he would get several subs. And that worked for him because it built up a subscriber base that would then allow him to do these other videos that would actually bring in a substantial amount of money compared to what the average person would do if they talked about the Spider-Man movie. And in this case, if he puts out more angry reviews, he will build up his subscriber count, which will in turn allow him to gain more money on the I don't want to say less effort, but the easier videos to make. And I have to imagine at this point, with the way YouTube works, that's how Joe really views his reviews at this point, are investments. They're investments into a subscriber count that would then allow him to make more money in the future as he goes forward. So what he really should be doing is focusing on his angry reviews as he works on other things. And I have a feeling that's what he's doing. I think right now he just wanted to take a break for a little while just because, well, it takes quite a while to do that. And of course, his fans, or at least some, I don't want to say all of them because not all of them, I only really watch his angry reviews, so I just kind of tuned out of his channel for a bit and I'll go back when he does more reviews. But in this case, he wanted to do things like Game of Thrones reviews, right? He wants to talk about movies, and that's really not a big deal to me. I think he should be able to do that. It's his channel, right? But there are people who, of course, wanted to kind of harass and berate the entire channel, no matter what he did, downvotes like crazy, terrible comments, massive arguing. And then Joe kind of did something that I really don't agree with, and I think it was a mistake. He turned off his comments, he turned off his ratings, and that kind of cuts off really the biggest thing of YouTube, which is interactivity with your fans. It also probably doesn't help that a while ago he said he would never do that, and he did it. But again, it was getting to really borderline harassment of other people. Matt, obviously, when you look in comments, so many go into spam that probably shouldn't even be into spam, and then a lot make it that shouldn't make it because they're either very hateful, or you see those links that somehow make it in the comments that's like H3H3 and they're directing you to like some scam or phishing site or something. Somehow those always make it through, and I'll never know how that is. So really at this point, I think Joe realizes that the angry reviews really won't be making him the kind of money they were before. I mean, to put into context here, guys, his Outlast review was almost 1.5 million, but his Destiny review that he did a while ago that was getting views probably for quite a while up until that update is sitting at a little over 8.5 million views. That is a massive difference, obviously. Getting 8 million views, even if you spend hundreds of hours, is worth it because the amount of money you get back from that, really that investment of time, is completely worth it, and you can run a business on that. I mean, even his Zelda review that should have gotten a ton of views because Zelda is so popular and interesting to a lot of people when it came out, 2 million views. It's very odd the way YouTube's working, and unfortunately, I think it's forcing a lot of creators into this situation where they need to figure out other ways to bolster their lineup of videos just to make ends meet and make sure they can pay their employees. That's kind of where we're going. And it doesn't help that places like NBC and CBS and The Tonight Show and all these other places are showing up with massive amounts of uploads that can meet YouTube's criteria because they have a massive staff of people. So I hope the fans really of Angry Joe do go back to him when he starts working on their reviews because they are good. I think they're very entertaining, and I hope YouTube eventually turns it around to where they start recommending some of these higher production videos. I know it's pretty much impossible on their part just based on how much content is uploaded at any given time. But still, I do think certain people like his reviews should show up more, especially with the backlog of reviews because, well, it's good information, it's entertaining, and I think it really gives people an idea of what a game is and how well it'll play and if it's for them. So I do hope Angry Joe does eventually get his reviews back to the top of the search results and really back into people's feeds so that he can make more of them and actually make that his sustainable business because that's what people really want. Either way, guys, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments as to if you were a fan of Joe and now you're not because he's not doing so many of those angry reviews. At least he's taken 2 months off. He did show that he was doing quite a few of them last year and the year before, but I'm telling you, the way YouTube is operating now, it's going to be harder for him to make these as we go along because YouTube just isn't recommending them as much. He's not jumping above his sub numbers right now for his angry reviews, and I feel like he's realizing that now, and he's got to figure something out. This is what he's doing. He's doing reviews, things that take a lot less time to develop and make, and just hope that they get enough views to see him through until his next angry review. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.